Where are we? Oh, right. I messed up. So, we're currently playing Solace State, and I pressed my mouse button twice, so I'm just gonna read this part out. Chloe learns that Torrent has lived in Abraxa all his life, with his neural circuits instinctively encoding the fabric of Abraxa Street to long-term memory. It's more than just photographic memory, but an experimental recall of the places he's been. Nevertheless, the two iconohactors refuse to let the clouds of censorship set a pall over their parley. Chloe learns that Torrent has lived in Abraxa all his life. Oh, Abraxa is a harbor city with weak cultural ties, but strong constitutional political ties to the Lenoran motherland. So Torrent has lived in Abraxa all his life, with his neural circuits instinctively encoding the fabric of Abraxa streets to long-term memory. But it's more than just photographic memory, but an experimental recall of the places he's been. The tutoring center that he had as a part-time cleaning job during his teen years, whilst watching his richer classmates get premium education, the aunties downstairs who taught him how to make dim sum on the weekends. Chloe envies him, as she doesn't have a place where all roads feel like second skin. The closest she's been in her days since the Arctekin University campus back in Versivia. Before the border into Zircon Hill, Chloe efficiently passes fake IDs over Torrent and herself. The majority of the streets going into Zircon Hill have a mix of concrete roadblocks and military checkpoints, armed 24 hours a day. With Torrent's patient understanding of the region, they reach a weak point in Nexer's border security by weaving through a building and catch their breaths in an alleyway. Well, our initial hypothesis stands despite not being able to sandbox it. The haze, it's blocking everyone but those with high clearance Nexer IDs from connecting to the fiber net. Our random fake IDs don't really get us very far in all this except to give us a measure of anonymity. Anonymity? Well, the silver linings that your fake ID abilities still work, which should follow that most of my abilities will work normally. So next step is to get real Nexer IDs as covertly as possible without causing any incidents. Here's where you scan down for car registrations, yeah? Shouldn't be that hard. Nexer higher-ups tend to have sharp-looking cars, which is kind of out of place of what most Zircon Hills residents can afford. So yeah, targeting the cars should help us avoid crossing paths with real Nexer to get a set of networkable IDs. Brilliant, just like what we tested. Lead the way. There we go. 128 Velsna Tesseract, down 3 blocks. Ooh, Hack Sergeant. When's car? Officer dispatches the last 2 days. Loitering at Rudderfjord? Half-dozen officers requested to remove loiterers and vagrants at Rudderfjord Road, nearby middle school complex. Ensure prevention of damage to property and electrical networks. Drug bust at Yurna Power Plant. Special ops sent to Yurna Power Plant. Abandoned location. Suspects are likely to have live firearms. Locations may have debris. Nexer security forces should not engage with location unless given explicit orders due to sensitivity of the operation. Violations at Haven Court Community Center. Threat of altercation. Threat of altercation and violation of lockdown crew at Haven Court Community Center. General Nexer security forces requested for mob control. Chloe's thoughts. Let's just start off by telling Torrent about militia dispatches to Haven Court Community Center. It's the most recent entry, and community centers are likely places where lots of people can gather, so it is bound to be some good intel. Torrent would know if it's worth putting on our itinerary. Back. Tell Torrent about the dispatches. Seems like there's a dispatch next to relocate those Nexier scum to Haven Court Community Center for violation of curfew. That's garbage. Hold on, you said Haven Court? Yeah, why? You told me while we were planning yesterday that that's what that one of the last people Rebecca messaged was Sue Lee. Sue Lee's one of the best known community program managers at Haven Court. It's literally her home turf. If we found nothing suspicious on the Nexier comms, I was about to bring us there. Unfortunately, yeah, we need to get there ASAP. Packed day schedule. Sergeant Aspen Wen has a righteously orderly schedule. That may mean he's well trusted at his station. At 7 a.m. he goes to the military training center. At 8 a.m. he checks into the work canteen. By 10 a.m. he's checking equipment logistics and sending reports to his supervisors. By afternoon he's in Zircon Hill with his riot and crowd control team and rotating squads, marching to and holding different parts of the neighborhood. At 7 p.m. he goes home to his wife and daughter on Axel Main Street in one of the gray glass skyrises. Mrs. Yusne Wen is also a full registrant of this car's insurance. Take both IDs. Here's Sergeant Aspen Wen has good Nexier network access with his crowd control specialty. I should probably take on that ID. Yeah, I know how these guys walk, what their weaknesses are. I figured military-industrial complexes and egos are the same everywhere. Well, Nexier used to be heralded as heroes that protected the city, and some people still have a lot of deep trust with the corporation. With the corporation. They own a lot of infrastructure and that folks rely on. Guess it's never uncomplicated, huh? Yeah, fine, I'll grab his wife's ID for myself. She's also Nexier, so not completely locked out from the network. It works out swiftly as Chloe applies their fake IDs with nary a blink of her eyes. Torrent's locational tracking makes sure that the real ones are nowhere near. Capable of isolating packets of data and making sure that people do not cross paths, his specializations work together with hers like cabs of a whole. You've got to go. As they reach the community center, Chloe can feel Torrent sag as they take in the chaos unfolding before them. Sue Lee stands in the middle of a cluster of a half a dozen militiamen, hemming her and prodding at her. She holds her ground as much as she can, her voice low and gesturing for calm, but it's clear that the knot of locals around them is taut with distress. A breaking point is coming. Sue Lee's body folds into the ground to the sickening sound of a rifle hitting flesh and bone. A collective inhale of anger radiates outward before turbulent shouts overlap into a jagged noise. Torrent looks away. Oh shit, my brother's looking over there. What? Torrent, pay attention, Sue Lee's. Why does he have to be here? He's probably gonna lash out at the Nexier for symbolic reasons, or not be able to keep his temper. Ugh! Called Torrent out for not mentioning his brothers. So your brother's is stuck in here too? Why didn't you tell me? I trusted you about trying to find Rebecca. What? Why are you asking me that now? Of course I want to help my family when they're in crisis. Doesn't mean I don't want to help others too. I want to help Sephora. I want to help Rebecca. You just never told me. Please, let's not talk about this now. Fine, we need to focus on extracting Sue Lee from that situation. You stay as Sergeant Wen, since you might be able to talk some sense into the militiamen. I'm dropping my Mrs. Wen ID to do other kinds of icono hacking to support you. Torrent heaves a shaky breath. Chloe watches with goosebumps as Torrent eases himself into the crowd like an oil spill on concrete, barely taking up attention until he's in their midst. Chloe sees Torrent sharpen his gaze to try to play his part, but only a slim majority of the Nexier soldiers part ways to salute him. Chloe stiffens. Ma'am, that soldier's aggression was unwanted. Let me help you up. Soldier, you've got some explaining to do. We aren't going to move ahead in this region by beating people to the ground. You think vermin like her would listen to orders? These pests just keep trying to stir up trouble. We gotta put them in their place. Sue Lee, aided by Torrent, rises cautiously to her feet. The other soldiers are still hovering around her and not letting her leave. So she's angling herself between them and the community center's front door. She must have a will of steel about her. Guys, I'm pausing here. I'll be back. Okay. Back. Torrent's eyes flickered from Sue Lee first, then a soldier brandishing his rifle at Sue Lee, and Chloe senses that Torrent generated an invisible wave wave function triangulating between the three. Whoa. Torrent's eyes flicker to Su Li first. Then the soldier brandishing his rifle at Su Li and Chloe senses that Torrent generated an invisible wave function triangulating between the three. Considering Torrent's personality, Chloe presumes the icon hacker has shifted the soldier's perception of Su Li's location between one blink and the next to keep the community leader offset from the line of fire. Chloe acknowledges how fraught this situation is. Torrent cannot cast his displacement hack on all unarmed citizens in such a large crowd, and so there are only so many innocent lives at risk if a fight should break out. This'll be a detente if I don't do something. If Torrent's going to get rid of these guys, I'll have to hack the lead goon and send him info that he can work with. A Baction local? Oh! Hack Finn. Undertreated injury. Finn doesn't make enough money to pay for physio for a painful reoccurring spasm and shattered kneecap in his right leg. As for the most expensive option, there's no way Nexer doesn't have more advanced treatments that could cure it within a week. Guess Finn doesn't warrant top-shelf care. The medical records show you've only received basic care for your leg. What about it? Well, if you got your act together here, I'm sure I can put in a good word. You don't have physical disability coverage at your job. What happens if it worsens? Finn has a hunted expression as his weaknesses begin being exposed to all and sundry. Watch it, you bitch. I'm not the enemy here. The system that prevents anyone from getting back to proper health is. Even the folks gathered around are taken aback by how outrageously uncaring and competitive Nexer sound. Su Li looks dismayed and frustrated. Finn held her grades for a second there. Su Li, although shaken, clearly wants to remain in the conversation to protect the community. Finn used to live here? Happy birthday, my boy Finn. Happy birthday to my wild child. 5 years old already. Finn Martin, my little man. You're such a ball of energy rolling around Zircon Hill fast. Finn Marson, 13 years old, turns out to be a dark horse player. The Zircon Hill hitter turned the game around, at least in the last 20 minutes, with a home run that energized his team. Finn looked dazed and slow to smile when he confronted with his win, as though he did not expect the outcome in his favor. His coach released a looping anim of his expression, which became an overnight meme for masses. Misdemeanor court summons. Pleaded guilty to misdemeanor battery charge in Zircon Hill yesterday. The battery case against Marson was active for a year ever since he allegedly punched an ex-colleague to the ground after his firing. Marson said he was convinced that the man had something to do with his job dismissal, but management indicated that Marson had scapegoated the victim. Appealed to his empathy. We're born in this neighborhood, just blocks from here, and this is how you treat the people who you grew up with? You don't know my life. I remember you. I was just starting to work here and came for resume writing support and basketball practices. You know, a lot has changed in the neighborhood since you left. The streets in front of your dad's hardware store are a lot safer. You really want people here to remember you as a bully? Who knows, you might be working with someone else from this neighborhood one day. There's others who share the same roots as you. There you go, the military don't look that invulnerable anymore. Su Li seems poised and composed, and the improving situation has a calming effect on the crowd. Workplace violence. Due to his previous behavioral issues in the workplace that included violence against a colleague, court records show that Finn was paid a significant settlement and was fired. Nonetheless, he still had a record and couldn't find a new job. In a separate hiring letter, Nexer had made him sign an agreement to a subsistence wage for 16 months in order to avoid a prison term. With the terms of his hiring, Finn was not provided with healthcare benefits. So distrust about violence? Wait, no. Messages to his mother. Finn couldn't afford to go to university. The messages suggest he wants to make more money to take care of his ailing mother, but there isn't much money going around. His mother ended up in his aunt's home, but the aunt treats both his own sister and him like second-class citizens, constantly insulting them. He also traps Finn into getting her next year playing blockers. Finn loathes her appeal to social issues. I know it's rough living in the city. It's expensive. You need to help your mom pay the bills, so you're in this job. Everyone's just trying to make ends meet. Bullshit, you make 20 times more than I do. You have no idea what it's like. No, we don't know exactly, but these are common experiences in this community. We all need access to healthcare. We all want to take care of our own. It hasn't been fair for a lot of us. So don't take it out on people who could be your allies. Oops, I might have gone too far there. I wasn't minding who I'm pretending to be. Should be alright. Look, everyone looks like they're at least thinking about what both you and Suli said. It's sublime how folks rose around Suli now, buoyed by her fearlessness and forgiveness. The militia shuffle uncomfortably, giving way to Suli's gravity as she is embraced by her people. Enough of this. No higher-ups are going to be happy with your behavior, Finn. What you're doing here, what you're all doing here, is a waste of next year's resources. Oh, shit. Ah, you must be seeing the approved server request to put you on paid suspension. This is just a slap on the wrist. You'll see. We'll let internal supervisory decide. The rest of you, escort Finn back home. If you deviate off course, I'll know. Worried about having their complicity exposed, the rest of the men rush to follow Torrent's orders. In the flurry, Chloe notices an encroaching shadow. She has to quickly decide whether to burden Torrent with yet another emergency. Hack Waylon? Concealed syringe. No time to get more data. Torrent's brother has a syringe gripped in his hand like a weapon. Oh, God knows what. His adrenaline has spiked. He's fast approaching the knot of soldiers with Torrent in the middle. Should I warn Torrent and tell him to do something, or just make Waylon briefly forget what he wants to do? Change his memory. It won't do to shake Torrent's attention now with so many civilians and soldiers' attention focused on him without the capacity to build another fake ID. The best she can do is make haste in the shadows as she sneaks up on Waylon, watching for every tell of his next movements. From 2 meters away, Chloe has a clear, uninterrupted line of neuroelectrical current between her bios and his. Within a heart-racing second, he finds what she needs to effect. Chloe momentarily blocks his short-term memory with a concealed syringe. It's like plucking the very semantics of syringe from one's mind and turning it into an unreadable conceptual mush. Of course, conceptual mush. That sounds like my brain. Of course, it might be a problem if the syringe wasn't in his long-term memory too, but that'd be a highly unusual kind of foreplanning. As Chloe predicts, her hack disrupts Waylon's trajectory and his peers confusedly about him, blending with all the other locals for time being. Chloe sees Torrent staring her way, his face still fitted with Wen's brows. Chloe belatedly realizes that her spiking quantum energy output is unlike anything that she's done up till now because memory writes require a particularly high concentration of it. What are you doing? Your brother had a concealed syringe. I made sure he didn't. I didn't know. Stab you in the back for strutting around as next year? What did you do? I thought you knew how to read data, not write. I altered his short-term memory so that he'd forget about the syringe. Can you not take such a risk? I know my brother. He'd never hurt someone. You couldn't have found a better option? I calculated the risks. I've been at this longer than you. I can read when someone's adrenaline's poised to attack. Even if his weapons won't leave lasting damage, you think those soldiers won't use that against him once they discover what he did? You could have told me about it. I could have handled him. I just went with something that I thought was a surefire solution. You had everyone's attention on you. Memory stuff is crazy, Chloe. It's drastic and invasive and a violation of the mind. It's a little scary when you went to that first. I was cautious. I made sure that the memory was narrowly defined. Shouldn't it be used for emergencies then? Not to mention that you could hit quote rot with that much concentration of energy and lose your narrowly defined control. It was an emergency, and I've managed this knowing my own limits. I'm worried, okay? For both of you, I'm worried. Then you know how I feel when I made that decision. You just completely surprised me with it. I'm sorry. If you meet Waylon, Would you tell him the same? Never mind. Let's just loop back around and be ourselves again. Fine, rendezvous at the alleyway. When they meet each other again in their own skin, they take a moment to breathe. Through what happened, Chloe just gives Torrent plenty of space, knowing that the younger man has had to do the majority of the heavy lifting in that operation. Alright, that was a lot. I just want to check in on you. How'd you feel? That was, I don't know, but I hope never to have to do that again. Want me to calm down your adrenaline a bit? That's fine, don't worry, I'll be fine. I just want to know, how'd you calm down from all this and be yourself again? I just feel like there's something so uncertain about playing at being someone else and being yourself again. Yeah, it's challenging to not disassociate. Breathe with me, focus on your 5 senses and how you uniquely feel things. Name 5 things you see, then 4 things you hear, 3 things you touch, and that unsettled gut feeling, it's real. And I don't think it's just because you took on a fake idea of someone whose role is one that you're diametrically opposed to. It can take a while to feel yourself again when you're playing a fake ID under stress. Yeah, you get me. Well, I'm not a good actor either, so I feel like my stomach was slipping inside out when I'm practically pitching a softer version of Nexier. Like, what if I'm playing the good cop of Nexier does so many bad, horrible things that they've done? Did the words I say justify them? Yeah, that's tough. Well, for what it's worth, Zircon Hill seems pretty against Nexier as a conglomerate. That one good cop isn't gonna change things. Yeah, you're right. You're getting the local politics already. Just repeating what you've taught me. A lot of people have been holding their breaths, and while we've cleared the air this once, the bigger issues haven't been solved. Yeah, so let's take it one step at a time. You'll feel better once you see Sully again, I think. Let's go inside, yeah? Yeah, okay. Oh, wait, that's it? Alright. Thank you for playing this game with me. It's been good. Solace State is interesting. It's definitely emotional. It feels like I'm making decisions for a completely different world, and they're gonna change things, and cyberpunk and this abilities that these two have, how to rewrite the tech or the energy around them is fascinating. Anywho, I hope they find Rebecca and Sully has some clue of where she is. Thank you for joining me on this journey and this story. If you enjoyed it, please leave me a like, maybe a comment. If you really liked it, subscribe. There's probably going to be more. This is definitely a game I'm looking out for. And yeah. Till next time, have a good one. Toodaloos!